Right. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the Public Practice Accountants Club on Clubhouse, where public practitioner, thought leaders, industry specialists, and accountants just like you discuss hot topics in public practice and how they go about navigating the public practice landscape around the world. So fundamentally, public practice has the same principles, dynamics, and challenges no matter where we are in the world. So we might have some different tax seasons, busy periods, and legislation, but at the core, we are very much the same. So we've got a very interesting room this morning, 4-day work week, realistic or rubbish? And very interesting because here in Australia, we've had a lot of short weeks all in a row. So it is great timing, I think. But let me introduce myself. My name is Lynda Steffens, accountant, author, and introvert. 3 things that I'm very loud and proud about. And I've been hanging around public practice now for just on 30 years. And for the last 5-7 years now, I've been helping accountants and accounting teams out with their own businesses and integrating advisory services alongside compliance. So that's what I do. But I want to welcome, of course, my amazing co-host this morning, Kyelie Baxter. Good morning.
Good morning, Lynda. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
You should be well rested after our 4-day long weekend, right?
We should be. That
right.
is right.
This is a super timely topic and one I'm very excited and quite passionate about, actually. I'll introduce myself very quickly. So I'm Kyelie Baxter. I have an accounting firm here on the Gold Coast. We are super excited about technology and productivity and efficiency and all those things. So we really like to help our clients do what they do better, as well as all the other stuff like tax and accounting, all that stuff that we do best. So the 4-day work week is something that I have considered many, many times. And given that here in Queensland, we have 4-day work weeks in a row. So we had Good Friday, so that was a 4-day week, and then this week we've had Easter Monday 4-day week, and next week we've got Anzac Day 4-day week, and the following week we've got Labor Day 4-day week. So this is fantastic, leading up into my busiest time of the year. Just loving this. So, like, basically, I haven't told anyone, but I'm in a 4-day work week trial with my staff. It's just a very big secret.
No, all of Queensland's business is. I think we've been in trial for 2 years, really, looking at this. Yes, thank you, Kyelie. Oh, look, I knew you'd be passionate about this one, and this one would be right up your alley. So I think it's going to be great to break it down this morning. So for those of you that are listening in the Clubhouse stratosphere, of course, there's many ways that you can talk to us through the chat or the direct back channel messages. You can also raise your hand and come and chat to us. We love you to chat to us, tell us what you think. And of course, if you're listening live across some of our other channels, you can also make comments there and we can see that as well. So thank you for joining in with us today. Okay, so just a quick reminder that as we kick off our conversation, of course, our intention is always to be positive, supportive, and collaborative as we come together in support of our amazing industry, no matter where we are in the world. Okay, 4-day work week, realistic or rubbish? Would we love a 3-day weekend every weekend? Is it more than that? Don't know. Well, it might be right around the corner for some businesses. And actually it is, to tell you the truth, when you go out there and look at this. Companies around the world are trialling and enacting actually a 4-day work week in the hope of attracting and retaining staff, providing a much needed morale boost, and of course, work-life balance. So this morning we're going to chat about whether we can see what the 4-day work week is all about, but can we see it working in accounting? Will it deliver all that we hope for, or will it lead to some problems of its own? And so as Kyelie has just let us know, here in Queensland in Australia, we've had forced 4 weeks in a row of 4-day work weeks, which has probably been challenging for anybody. But I think the 4-day work week, up until now, it's often a bit of clickbait, isn't it, really? You just see it out there amongst things and go, oh, yeah, I'd love a 4-day work week. But it's much more than a 3-day weekend when you look into it. It is actually available to a lot of employees around the world right now, and across a lot of different industries as well. So I think what we've seen, certainly in the last 2 years, there's talk of, what the last 2 years has given us as far as tools around doing these types of things. I think also, too, that we've seen a shifting worldview due to the global pandemic. We're seeing chats and talks like the Great Resignation, and a whole lot of different things. And accounting, is not immune to any of that. And we certainly have been struggling for talent and qualified professionals in the industry for a long time now. I think also, too, something that's happening is we're seeing very much a big generational shift in our workforce. And also in our clients. So there's a lot of things to be thinking about, and they can all play into this 4-day work week. And of course, what we've been talking about leading up to all of this as well is flexible remote working arrangements, goal setting, culture, leadership, delegation, all of these topics. There's a lot of things that can go into this. So let's chat about first, I think, what is this concept of a 4-day work week, Kyelie? Have you looked into it at all?
Yes, I've looked into this quite extensively over the years, actually.
Okay.
Because I'm really passionate about offering staff flexible work opportunities.
Yes.
And that's how I view the 4-day work week. I think it is one of the flexible work opportunities that you can choose to offer your team. Which means that I think some people look at it a little bit wrong.
Yes.
Because I think when we think about 4-day work week, people go, oh, I could never do that. That wouldn't suit my whole team. But maybe your whole team doesn't want it.
Exactly.
Maybe your whole team doesn't have to be offered it.
Exactly.
Like, most of my staff are already on flexible work arrangements. So if I went in and went, well, we're also doing a 4-day work week, geez, that means some of them might hardly come to work. Some days. What are they going to do stuff, So the 4-day work week really conceptually is, and I love this term, giving the fifth for free.
Yes. So, I've heard that one too. I've heard it talked about as the gift of the fifth. The gift of the fifth.
Free, yes.
Yes.
So it's really about cramming, 4 days worth of work, 5 days worth of work into 4. So it's not going, all right, you're currently on a salary of, and I'm going to use easy numbers, $100,000.
Yes.
We're now going to pay you $80,000
yes.
to work 4 days. It's not about that.
No, it's not. That's exactly right.
That's not how it works. It's about going, right, we want you to still do your whole job. We just want you to do it in 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
If you think you can do that, let's do it.
Let's do it, exactly.
There's all these different models and ways that people do that. And what you actually have to do is realize that there's no one-size-fits-all approach, and you have to do it depending on your industry, depending on your business and your organization, and depending on your people as well.
Yes.
So I've seen other service-based, because obviously we're accountants, I've seen other service-based industries do it where they've gone, all right, well, it's pretty 38 hours, basically 40 hours. What we'll do is we'll do 4 10-hour days and take that fifth day off.
Yes.
Then they've said, well, we can't have everyone off on a Friday.
Yes.
So some people will have to have a Monday off. Some people have to have Friday off. Some people have to have a Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday off. That's not very popular. So it's going to have to be a rotational
Oh, see, we've got challenges already.
Right.
Yes.
If you have a team of 4 people and you go, okay, Sally, you can have Friday off. Sally's won the jackpot, right?
Yes.
Or, okay, Michael, you can have Monday off. The other 2 people in the office are going, well, this sucks. I get Tuesday and Thursday off. Like, I want to be Sally.
Yes.
So suddenly you're like going, I'm so amazing. Like, I'm giving my staff this great option, and they're grumpy about it.
Yes. And it completely undoes everything that you intended for it, right? So there's a lot of thinking and planning that's got to go into this. Well, a little bit at least, Yes,
totally. And I think probably when we come to planning, I'm going to use the word consultation.
Yes,
this is really
great
something
word.
that you need to consult your team about and talk to your team about, and get some, dare I say, rules in place or some guidelines, because you don't know what your team want until you ask them. Otherwise, you're making assumptions. Like, they might
correct.
go, I totally want Wednesdays off. Like, I would love to just go 2 days off, 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on. That sounds like a dream for me.
Yes.
And you don't know what other commitments they've got.
Correct.
Like everyone is at different phases in their life. Some will have elderly parents, some will have young children. Like, you just don't actually know.
No.
The other thing is, not everyone is going to want to do a 4-day week.
Yeah.
So as an example, I have got staff that don't want to work 100% capacity. They only want to work 80% capacity, or they only want to work 60% capacity. So if I'm suddenly like, all right, so let's do your 80% capacity in 4 days, they're going to go, hang on.
No, don't want to do that. Yeah.
The idea of working 80% is so that I'm not stressed, I'm not trying to cram things in, I'm not blah, blah, blah. This goes against the intention of my original flexible work arrangement.
Yes.
So you really have to break it down. But I don't want to be totally negative about it. It's actually something I'm quite excited about. So, but I just do want to point out that it's not for everyone.
No. And I think you said two really important words there. The first one was choice. So the first one is that it can be a choice. And I think in accounting, we often try to line everything up. Everyone has to be the same. Everyone has to do the same thing. A 4-day work week is not that. And if you listen or get involved into any of the discussion around this concept, is that choice is there at the heart of things. Consultation was the second word that you said there that I think everybody needs to take into account. Absolutely, it needs to be in consultation with your team. And I think too, as a business owner, you need to decide what outcome you're wanting to achieve from this. Why are you doing it in the first place? And I think we can go and have a look at that, a little bit later on. But there's a couple of models that you talked about in there too. The two that are most popular, or that we're seeing, is that you do just do less hours in less days. So maybe we are only working 30 hours a week, and we're doing that in 4 days. Okay. You also rightly mentioned team members have staggered days. Some industries, I've listened to countless amounts of podcasts on this, and some industries or businesses, they do just say, we don't work Wednesdays. Often it's not a Monday and Friday, by the way. Often it is a midweek day. Yeah. So some businesses do put that in and just go, we just don't work Wednesday. Now, that's not viable for every business in the world. Okay. People that have retail outlets or things like that, they can't just close on a Wednesday. It doesn't work like that. There's plenty of other industries. And as a business, you may choose not to do that because client service, or when clients need you, it's just not doable. Otherwise, they stagger the days for the employees, and the employees come up with that. That actual model, all these models, the 4-day work week, bank on the fact that it's increasing productivity. That's what we're trying to do with really outcome focused work. The second model is to, like you just said, Kyelie, is to cram your full week's work into a shorter week, into 4 days. So with being more flexible around the hours that you work, and here's where choice would come into that as well. So employees still might have the staggered days, or they may take a whole day off. They may take half days. They may do compressed hours. So a 4-day work week doesn't necessarily apply across the board to the business. It's just each employee has that many hours or only works 4 days. So there's a number of ways that you can look at it. But essentially what we're talking about is a 180-100 model. So they're saying 100% of pay for 80% of your time with still 100% of productivity or outcomes. And that's the trick to it. So it's delivering business outcomes with employees working less time. That's really, if we cut to the chase, what the 4-day work week is about. It's not about having long weekends every weekend and, having fun. That's really what it's about. And I think just where we've been at the moment, with everything that's been happening, funnily enough, we can probably see that this can be done, Kyelie. I think the first time forever, this is not just a radical thing that, these out there business people and industries are doing. This is something that might just work, across a lot of different industries, right?
Absolutely. And there's no reason why it can't work for accounting as well. No. I don't believe that. I strongly believe that we do need to do the 180-100 model.
Yes.
Because we've got a skill shortage,
yes.
We can't get, there's not enough accountants to go around. So
no.
we'll just tell everyone, we'll just work 80% and actually only do 80%.
We'll be
doing the rest.
A bit of trouble. Right? Yeah. Someone's got to do it. That's right.
I can't, so that's where we're at. But I want to talk about the productivity side of things.
Yes.
Because there are some amazing statistics around the world about how this has gone.
Yes,
so
there is.
In Japan, Microsoft Office tried it. And I know it's Microsoft, so you don't feel very they're just like us.
No.
What you do find when you go into bigger offices is that the bigger the place, the more difficult it is because there's more people, less communication, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Microsoft in Japan trialed it and they saw a 40% increase in productivity. Now, I'm so pessimistic. I'm like, what was I doing before that? But how did they measure this? What was the, But there's so many other things as well, all around the world, people are saying this actually works. And when you listen to podcasts or you read books or whatever, the common thread is because people sit down and they go, right, how are we going to logically make this happen? Where do we waste time? Because if you sort of say to someone, it's one of the, if you go to your best accountant today and go, I think you're wasting 1 day a week. What do you do? They're going to be so offended. No one thinks they waste time.
No. And I think when this is driven, then I think this is the thing, is around that choice word again, is in consultation, or it's both the words. And so it's got to be driven also too from the employees. Once you float the idea, then it's like, okay, you guys set this up. How are we going to make this work? Here's the KPI. How do we do this? Yeah.
And that's the thing. People come back, and I've heard some amazing stories where bosses have been like, oh my God, that hurts, but it's so true. Where staff come back and they're like, all right, so we need to figure out how to be more productive. So we have a team meeting every day. We don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
We only want to do that every second day.
Yes.
And that's been very confrontational because, we're so driven by team meetings and communication and let's keep the culture right, make sure everyone's happy, and the staff are going, yeah, we don't want that.
Yes.
It's a really good outcome. The other thing is that I've heard, and I do some of these myself, are really, really practical things, like making people book time with you so that you can plan your day effectively. We all know that your day ends up an absolute mess, and you get to the day and go, not that I did nothing today, but I do not know where that day went, when you let other people control your day.
Yes.
So you basically need to come in the morning, and if it's not in your calendar that day, lock it down. Nothing else is going to happen that day except for what's in my calendar. So you have to start being really controlling about what you will do that day and what you won't do.
And disciplined yourself, I think, Kyelie. Discipline comes into it then. And everything that I've listened to about the 4-day work week too is very much that it does need to be led from the top, even if the employees sort of come up with, or your team come up with, how it's going to work. You have to do it too, though. Because, if you're not doing it, then no one else is going to do it. And that's the key to leadership. Everybody else will find an out. So it's very much then that you've got to be willing to listen to what the employees are saying, and also, then go with that as well and abide by that, certainly in a trial period. And that's, we'll talk about that as well. But yeah, I'm hearing the same stats, that you're talking about. So I'm hearing that there's increases in productivity, of 90 to 95% of employees. So we're not talking about an increase in productivity overall. We're saying that at an employee level, 90 to 95% of employees actually increase their productivity when you look at something like this. There's instances, and well documented, of businesses that have grown quite substantially, all while operating under a 4-day work week. So also that they're saying that it goes to reason that if you have healthier, happier, and more engaged staff, that you're just naturally going to get some better outcomes. And then delving into what do you need to look at? Like, how do we squish this time? Because you're right. No one goes into work thinking they waste time. You're not really there to waste time, or certainly I never have been. You want to get in and get your work done and get those outcomes. And so key parts that people have been looking at is certainly at meetings. How do we run meetings? How often do we have meetings? What sort of, parameters can we put around this to make them more efficient? How often do we need them? Which is what you were just talking about. And your focused work is the other one, Kyelie, which again you just touched on, is then how do you manage your day and how much time is set away for focused work? So that's not checking your emails. That's not taking calls from clients. That's not taking queries from team members. That is you sitting down and actually just doing work and delivering outcomes. We can't be 100% productive probably in that time, but removing all those distractions. And I think for accounting, we can get so easily caught up in those distractions and not be disciplined enough with ourselves to take them out of our life. And I think that really for accounting is the key to a 4-day work week. And I do some of these things too, and I help other accountants do that as well. I've got this concept of on-call, off-call time. So when you're on call, you can then answer calls, have client meetings, talk to your team. And these are somewhat set or scheduled times during the week that you're on call. When you are off call, none of that. That is your focused work time, and that's when you get work done and it's very productive work, whatever that productive work happens to be for you. And so I think it's getting the balance of that, I think, is the real key to success in a 4-day work week, wouldn't you say?
100%, because there's so many other things to consider in that space. What if in your 4-day week you have some other personal obligation that you need to make? So then it suddenly becomes a 3.5-day week. How do you manage that?
Yes.
Like this 4-day week sounds amazing. And let's just say that you can make it happen and everyone can increase their productivity and find that extra time in the day. And Lynda, I'm totally with you. I think it actually is doable.
Yes.
But at what cost?
Yes.
Not everyone likes working productively.
No.
I'll just say it. Not everyone does. A lot of people don't. When you work efficiently and productively at maximum, you are really going. And you are in deep work a lot of the time. Many people don't like working like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it doesn't suit them.
Yeah.
So the problem that you end up having is that people actually end up working really, really long hours in those 4 days to compensate, because they find that they really can't get in the
They
zone.
can't get the outcomes because they don't prefer to work that way. Yeah.
So
Okay.
you really have to monitor the 4-day work week and see if that works for you, and really, counsel your staff and talk about whether the 4-day week would work for them individually before you go into it, because you don't want to lose a staff member because of burnout when you actually tried to do something good for them.
I think too, the thing is back to the choice at the beginning, and the concept of, does everybody have to be in on this 4-day work week? Now, I think to make it work successfully, you would think the majority of the team probably do, but if you do have a top employee that is just what you described there, Kyelie, albeit you are watching their work, their work-life balance and all of that, because realistically what this is about is mental health and stress, and just being happier and healthier. And thank you, Richard. I just seen your comment pop up there he's listening to us out on LinkedIn. Yes, the 4-day work week absolutely is realistic, because people are traveling, he's saying, traveling longer times to work. They don't want to get in the car 5 days a week or get on the commute 5 days a week, so depending on where you are in the world, that's an impact as well. And we've been seeing that there's a lot of challenges coming around getting people back in the office after our lockdowns and COVID and things like that. So that's that shifting of that worldview that we're seeing. And our businesses need to be able to at least adapt to some of these things, because it's happening whether we like it or not. And it's our employee sentiment, our client sentiment, all of this is shifting. And it's a real challenge. So I think you just got to keep your eyes open. But realistically, why we're looking at a 4-day work week, I think anybody around this is not to get more bang for our buck out of our employees. It's actually to make them healthier, happier. As an employee, we have, not as an employee, as an employer, we need to look after our employees and make sure that their mental health is okay, and watching their stress levels. So being conscious of these long hours and stressed employees, we have that duty of care to them. So it's about getting that productivity balance. And I think if you go into this for any other reason, I don't know if you're quite there. I don't know, Kyelie, how do you feel about that? Is that really the main reasons why you're considering a 4-day work week?
I would consider it because I think that it would really be attractive to future employees. Actually, that would be the main reason.
Yes.
I consider it.
Okay.
Like, most of my staff are already on flexible work arrangements for one reason or another. So probably the reason that I haven't done it is because
you've got that flexible thing in place.
Anyway.
Yes. I looked at my business as well, and I have a lot of flexible working happening with mine and a lot of part-time employees. And if I announced a 4-day work week to them, it's like, well, we only work 2 days a week now, Lynda. What are you talking about?
And this is what I mean.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
So I'm the only one that works 5 days a week.
Right?
Yes.
Like,
maybe I can bring it in for me. Yes.
We actually have very few staff members that work a traditional 38-hour week.
Yes. Yes.
And none of us are working in the office full time.
Yeah.
But back to your comment, what I'm thinking is I think that you need to make sure that if this is something that you're going to consider, that you are ready for this. So your business is set up. You need to already know what efficiency and productivity your staff individually are doing, so that then when they go to 80%, you're able to monitor whether there's a dip or an increase. You need to know how many hours they're working. So if they're working remotely and you have no way of tracking the number of hours they spend logged onto your system, you need to figure that out before you go to 4 days.
Yeah.
Because there's so much resentment that comes from I work so much. And you know that when you're in an office, because they're there before you, they're there after you, or whatever the story is, you can see it. But when they're at their house, you can't see it, right?
No.
So you need some sort of active way where you can get a report and go, oh, they were logged on for this long and their active hours during this time were actually this. That's not good. And geez, maybe I need to help them because they're producing good quality work but extremely slowly. So what's going on? You know, and really consider that. So you have to be set up to do the right thing. But one thing we haven't talked about that I want to address is, let's say you decide to do it, it's all going well.
Yes.
What about annual leave?
So
So we're doing 5 days worth of work, 4 days. How much annual leave do we think we're entitled to?
That's a very good
and this
question.
is something that absolutely has to be discussed during the consultation.
Yes.
Because it's one of those ones where generally the employer and the employee see differently.
Yes.
What are your thoughts, Lynda?
Well, I think, it's very tricky. I hadn't thought about that either, Kyelie. So, yes, how do entitlements come into this? And, here in Australia, we have our awards system, and all of that. We've got professional staff that generally are not covered by awards, but we have administration staff that definitely are. And so the government has a role to play in this as well. How do you do that? Very good question. What do I think? Well, I can certainly see what an employer would think and what an employee would think, that the employee would still want, of course, all of their annual leave entitlements and, of course, their personal leave and all these other entitlements that we are required under workplace law to be given. And I can see how the employer might think, well, if you're working 4 days, I think you should only get, the pro rata 80%. But I can see the argument too, though. If you get this right, why not have the full entitlement of annual leave? Again, if we're getting the outcomes that we need and we can measure that, what does it really matter when you are there and working flexibly, I think is the thing.
Agree. So I feel like if you go the 5th for free, but you do 4 10-hour days, then no annual leave provision change,
No, correct.
But
that's because you're still working those same hours, right? Yeah.
But if the whole office changes the way they work and you pay for new technology and you introduce new things, and people are genuinely only working at 80% workload, then they can't still take a 100% holiday. And you have to think about how that works and obviously get contracts modified and see if you can even do that with administrative staff. I'm not even sure whether you can.
Yes.
But generally, that's one of the things that I really looked into, how are other people doing this? On the whole, everybody reduced the annual leave.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go, everybody. So that's come out of the research and the reading that Kylie's done, is that everybody reduced the annual leave in line with that. So 80% annual leave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there any talk of the personal leave or anything like that?
Of
all entitlements reduced by 80%. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I guess which sort of makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just looking up at the same time, like there's all these companies that have done this and, they're saying that it's great. But unfortunately, when you read about companies that do it and say that it's so great, unless they've got specific statistics, you don't actually know what their measurement is like and what they use as their base level.
Yes.
So it makes it really hard.
So I think
I'll tell you some of the things that people. Sorry, you go.
No, you go, Kyelie.
Well, I want to talk about some of the things that businesses have done to increase productivity to get 5 days of work done within 4 days.
Let's talk about that.
Some of these are like, oh my goodness, seriously? Like, could I actually do that to my team? So this New Zealand firm, and it clearly says, employees opted for this.
Okay.
Employees opted to install lockers for their phones. So
wow.
away all your stuff.
Wow.
Now, we all know that when you have your mobile phone out on your desk, you are like 80% or 80 times or some ridiculous stat like that more likely to be distracted than if it's not there. Like,
it actually, there's a stat around your cognitive ability reduces by 20% by having your phone somewhere within your reach.
Yeah, that must be where I'm getting 80%.
Yeah, that's it.
They also did soundproof meeting spaces. So
that's
so true. Like, I know that when I'm with a staff Baxter listening to other people's conversations,
Yes,
because that's how
yes.
I learn what's going on in my business.
Sneaky.
And it is the key reason that one of my team does not want to work from home full time, because she can't overhear other people's conversations and figure out what's going on.
Fair
Not
enough.
from like a gossipy point of view, just from a managing client.
Yes, just to keep a finger on the pulse. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so they did lockers for their phones and stuff. Then they also did this web browser lockdown. Now I think most firms probably have some sort of browser, I don't know, search thing, but whether they lock down or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, they sort of said that because you have your day off, or like your 5th for free, to deal with your household and life responsibilities outside of work, non-work responsibilities cannot happen on your 4 days. And, you know, I'm pretty casual about it. If someone needs to, ring Suncorp about making a change to their home insurance policy and be on hold for 4 hours.
Yes.
Like that happens, right?
Yes.
Whatever.
Yes.
But that could not happen there. So they were like, this is how we are going, these are the rules, the golden rules of how we're going to find more productivity. I just found these things fascinating because it's like people were committed. Like, we want this 5th day. We're going to do this.
Yes.
I loved it.
I think that's exactly right. And I think when you float something like this, you will be surprised what your team may be willing to do in order to get this 4 days, however that looks like for them, or looks like for your business. And, I can hear one thing going off. We can't lock mobile phones away because of all our 2-factor authentication going on. It's like, I can hear that's the first thing that's happening. But, so maybe that's not it. But there will be times when you don't need it around you. You can be once you're logged into things, then you don't need it. Put it away. So I think there's a lot that we could consider, and certainly a lot of what I heard too as I was researching this topic was around the trust of the employee and the employer relationship. And first, the consideration, can I trust my employees to really be able to do this? Can I trust them to do the right thing? Can I trust them to, abide by these things that they've come up? And I think you just hit on exactly that, is that you'll be surprised what they will do in order to get this flexibility in their lives. And so I think trust automatically comes if you give it first and say, in consultation and in choice, here's what we're thinking about. We want these outcomes. You work out how to do it. Don't really mind. You work out how to do it. Yeah.
But with working out how to do it, there could come some disadvantages for the business and the business owner. And the biggest disadvantage would obviously be cost and risk.
Yes.
So the risk that this doesn't work out, people are unhappy, and you've made a good thing go sour.
Yes.
Good thing.
Yes.
But I think the cost should not be discarded, because when we do these things, and especially if you're going to go, right, well, let's just everyone do an 80% workload now. Cost is you've got to get new staff. Like, where are they going to come from? So yes, you're saving on some wages, but you've got to put new people on. That's not equal, because then you've got to train people, and then you've got to have extra this and extra that and extra licensing and blah blah blah. So just remember.
Yes, there's an impulse to this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
But the benefits also might outweigh that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes, anybody that's dealt with some software providers out there, they can soon do some stats on increased productivity or saving hours with your staff, right? And tell you how much you can save if you buy their $10,000 product. So there's plenty of ways to look at that. And I think let's talk about then how we go about measuring things and what it is should we measure. Is this the time to start looking at how we go about that, what's really important to our businesses, and that is something, again, that is a strong influence in this conversation around the 4-day work week. How do you measure outcomes? And I've been watching accounting influencers, and what they're talking about, and how do we actually measure outcomes? We have accounting influencers, Kyelie, absolutely. And so listening, yeah, well, funnily enough, you'd be surprised at some of the profiles around. There's one in particular, she has 650,000 followers. And so I definitely think she's got some influence. So yeah, what is it that we need to be measuring then? What are the outcomes? We're used to, whether it's good or bad, and we're not going to get into that today, but the whole timesheets, time, right on, right, charge, all of that. Is that what we really should be measuring? Should we be measuring, and this would be interesting, I'm interested in your comments here, Kyelie, because I know you look at things differently in your firm. Is it about turnaround times? Is it about how happy the client is? Is it about, obviously revenue? I think revenue still needs to stay in there, but revenue at what level? Revenue at the firm level, revenue at, an individual level, and of course, general overall profit, is another one. But are there some things that we can bring in here about experience, both from an employee's perspective and our client's perspective?
Yes. So from a client's perspective, as far as experience goes, you always want to make sure they have great service, regardless of whether you're working 5 days a week or 4 days a week, right?
Yeah.
So generally, clients will value quality work in a reasonable turnaround time with good communication.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I think that outputs would be key measurement there. And when we look at outputs, that encompasses turnaround time and revenue. As far as who's responsible for what part, well, the turnaround time gets added up through whoever's hands it goes through, and you need to measure all the time frames of the different cogs parts, so that if there is a blowout, you can sort of pin down to, well, where did that stop and just stall there,
Yes.
As far as revenue goes, should you look at it as the whole firm or individual? It really depends on how your firm runs, and whether you've got your intermediates or your seniors doing a lot of the work themselves on particular jobs, or whether 3 people are doing parts of jobs themselves. Like, it really just depends on how your firm runs. I look at both, strangely. So I do look at individual outputs, but from time to time, and depending on the workflow that we've got, like, we're coming into
a busy time.
We're coming into.
Yeah,
we're coming into a really busy
it's all right,
time.
Kyelie, you've got this.
I know, but then, like, it will die. Like, for some of the juniors, it will die. Like, tax planning is not something they can be super involved in, other than pulling reports and preparing some stuff,
Yeah.
So you have to be realistic about what you measure as well.
Yeah. And so this concept then, do you do anything where you're measuring client experience? So this concept of, and I've heard this in other industries, and you certainly hear it, as a marketing term, but this net promoter score, so an NPS. So what that essentially is on a scale of 1 to 10, and we get these all the time, how likely are you to recommend that business or that service to somebody else? And so I'm seeing accountants and firms start to use that as a key outcome. So, if a team or an individual is working with a client, from time to time, they get sent this email, tick the box. Did we get a 10 out of 10? Did we get a 5 out of 10? And that becomes the key performance indicator for that particular employee. The other thing that with net promoter scores too is at the employee level. How likely are our employees to recommend, firstly, our services to other people they know, but secondly, to other accountants to come and work with us? How likely are they saying, I love my employer so much and everything that goes on here and how we work, you need to come work with us? And goes right back to that reason that you said about thinking about a 4-day work week, which is about recruitment and retention of staff. Which is a massive, massive problem or challenge in the accounting industry. So these things are easy to measure. They are. There's a lot of really cool software out there that can just do this for you, in email systems, in email marketing, things like that. So that might be something, we want to consider looking at or start trialing that.
Absolutely. Like, I think NPS works for some businesses. It's not going to work for everyone. Like, if you've chosen to work with a smaller client base but all of the time, NPS becomes a bit of a joke.
Yes.
Because you can't ask the same person how they feel all the time.
No.
So
no.
That's a bit weird.
Yes.
But if you've got a large client base where they work with all different members of your firm, that will work super well, So I think you have to choose a measurement that works. I'm a little bit not a fan of Net Promoter Score because partly people don't respond. Like you get sent so many emails, people don't respond, which is disappointing. As well, so the way I measure client happiness is I actually just choose 5 clients a month. My staff probably don't even know that I do this. I don't make a big deal of it. It's more for me rather than for them. 5 clients randomly a month that we have built the month before, and I just ring up and have a chat and talk to them about their experience, their turnaround, blah blah blah. And tell you what, as soon as I pick one randomly, and I'm like, oh, I know that happened in that job.
So do you truly do it randomly then, Kyelie? You don't pick the one. Okay, good, because I think that's part of it, isn't it? You don't just want to pick the ones that are going to give you good outcomes. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect.
It's really surprising because most of the time we're strong communicators. So even if there's been like a delay or whatever, people don't really care because we've told them probably more than they need to know. Like, we're very big communicators. It's the ones where you're like, oh, this job was a no-brainer, like whatever, that give you good feedback. Where you're like, oh, excellent, that's so good. All feedback is good feedback.
Yes.
So, but people don't actually complain much, and it's not like, I just don't think. I think you're hard pressed to get a complaint unless people get really cranky.
There has to be something go terribly wrong. Yeah.
So if you're just asking, to rate 1 to 10, unless they're really cranky, they're going to give you a good score.
Yes.
If I'm ringing up and asking them, hey, how was your experience? They're not really cranky, because otherwise, it's unlikely they're really cranky, because otherwise they would have already run cranky.
Yes.
So I think you have to sort of think about the context of the question that you're asking.
I think also too, with client happiness, there's some key indicators that, we in business that are clear giveaways, and that's your debtor balance. If people aren't paying their bills and paying it quickly, there's possibly some resentment sitting in behind that. Yes, it could be that you have no debtor procedures whatsoever. That could be part of it, and people are just forgetting that they need to pay their bills, or the fact that they're like, that was average, I'll be average back. So there are some initial indicators, I think, that are floating around that we can just be a little bit oblivious to. But I think this is important. Client happiness, employee happiness, however you want to measure that, small, large firm, I think that's something that plays a very big role in this 4-day work week and in those trials, in order for you to measure outcomes, and which outcomes you should be measuring. So the other key one, I think, in accounting is our turnaround time. Kyelie, is that something you look at?
Yes, that's one of my key things.
Okay.
Like, we have a standard practice of this is the standard turnaround time that we want.
Yes.
And this is the maximum turnaround time that can possibly be.
Okay.
And obviously we've got limits in those places, and if it gets to that limit, people have to put their hand up and wave the red flag and go, I'm at the limit.
Whoops. Yeah.
Or
need some help.
The limit help.
Yes. Yeah.
Obviously, we all know, we've all worked in the industry, clients are so, especially around school holidays, right? Like, no one wanted to talk to us for the last 2 weeks because they've got kids on school holidays.
They're busy.
And even if you don't have kids on school holidays, you've got grandkids on school holidays, or you're flat out at your shop because of school holidays, or people are affected by school holidays, right?
Yes, they are.
So no one wanted to talk to us, and then we've just come back yesterday and been smashed, which is nice. But yeah, like tell you what my day was like yesterday. yesterday. I literally had my first meeting at 9 o'clock. So like 8:30 to 9, talked to all my staff, like happy, how's your Easter, blah, blah, blah. I got off video calls at 6 o'clock last night.
Oh,
I had a
my
15-minute break between them.
Wow.
I was like, who let that happen?
Who let that happen?
How did that happen? This did not go well. It was my fault because I pushed an extra appointment in there that went but anyway, such is life. But yeah, like I think turnaround times are really super important to everyone. And clients are clients. They want it done quickly.
Of course they do.
But then they don't see their part in it. So it's our job to make them realise if you don't give us this, we cannot do it. And that doesn't get told to clients enough.
No, you're exactly right. I think that's part of our accountant profile communication. We've been quite accepting and reactive to clients for a long time, and that's been okay to do that. And we're seeing now as we're getting these modern businesses and client expectations and all the information dissemination that's happening around that's available to us, is that we need to look at some of these business practices and how we communicate with clients in particular very differently. We need to be much more upfront. We need to decide what will work for particularly if you're thinking about something like putting in a 4-day work week. You have to start being resolute around what it is you want to see happen for your business, because you can't just, like you said, let everybody work less and then all of a sudden what's that going to mean? That's going to be a huge impact on your business if all our ducks aren't lining up or at least being communicated to. A couple of other things which might fall out of this, if you decide to do a 4-day week trial, and that's absolutely what you should do. It always should start as a trial, and you change and move and roll with the punches and just see if you can get it to work. It's never something you put in, we're going to do this and that's it. It is always a trial. And so it just depends then on its success. But I think the thing you need to think about then is educating your clients around what that looks like, and what the expectations are and the role that they've got to play in that, and how you do that. Now, Kyelie, I know you do that very well in how you onboard clients, even in just your general website, social media, stuff like that. You're doing that all of the time, but that's led from the top as well, which you do an amazing job of that, and that's really important. But what that gives then, I'd imagine, is your team the okay to do that with clients as well, because they see you doing it, right? Yeah absolutely. Yeah. So if we think about, gosh, that went very quickly, close to almost an hour already. I reckon we could go on about a 4-day work week and all the things that might fall out of that for quite some time. But I think just to summarize, and please, if anyone's got any questions for us, hook up with us on LinkedIn, email us. You can find our emails. They're out and about. Talk to us on Clubhouse, anywhere you'd like to chat with us, because we'd love to hear from you. And if anyone does have a question this morning, quite happy for you to raise your hand and chat with us now. But I think a 4-day work week, is it realistic or rubbish? Well, I think we've just talked about that it absolutely is 100% realistic, and 100% realistic for the accounting industry if that's what we want to do. Important to consider why you would want to invest. I think that's a very good word. Invest in a 4-day work week. What outcomes are you wanting to obtain at a business level? And then, of course, how you go about it. And I think that's those two big words, which I absolutely love, was the choice and the consultation. Very big role to play in all of that. How do you go about it? Well, it's probably more thinking about our focused time, how we limit distractions, what it is that we're doing when we're actually at work. and leading that from the top. Can we be disciplined enough ourselves to actually make this work? Because if you can do it, then your team can do it. Something that I was just getting on before was things that might fall out of this as well, is that perhaps there's some employees that don't fit with your firm and where you want it to go in your business. That may happen as a result of this. May also happen that you identify clients that don't fit as well. So there may be a shifting of some of your key stakeholders, and who's involved with that. So I think it's also important that you think about, I like to call this my number one rule, it's the right people in the right jobs. To be ultimately productive, you've got to understand how your team members work and the best work for them. And I guarantee there's a lot that accountants do that they're really not the right people for the right jobs. So think about that and have a look at that. But again, then what do you measure? We've suggested here that revenue is important. Obviously, businesses don't work without cash. So revenue is important, profits are important, but at what level? What level are we looking at those? Outcomes like turnaround time. How do you measure that? How do you keep a track of that? And of course, client and employee happiness was one we introduced as well. So lots to think about, but I know, thinking about my career, a 4-day work week would have been a dream for me, and I would have done almost anything to achieve that. So I think if you put yourself in your employee's shoes, I think this whole concept of can I trust them to do the right thing will go out the window, because it's something that I would have loved. I would have done anything to achieve. I would have sucked it up and got it done. I don't know how you feel about that, Kyelie, but I still would do that to be able to achieve that work-life balance with the way our lives are now, because it's difficult.
It is difficult, and I think 4-day work week is not new by any means, but
No.
it still feels innovative, particularly in the accounting space.
Yeah.
So I think that there's just so much opportunity for people here to make a difference to their staff's well-being, and also just try something new, because you never know what you're going to get out of it. I've had a comment on another platform which I really like, and it's something that I was going to suggest anyway. And that's, if you're really worried about going from 5 to 4 days, try 4.5 days. I'm letting a solicitor friend of mine do this with her team at the moment. I haven't had a chance to touch base and see how it goes, but I think that if I was ever going to do it with any one of my staff, or all of them, I would definitely go to a 4.5 day week. Yeah. And I would make 4 days work, and then the half the day, the catch up.
Is this catch up? Yeah.
So it would look like you weren't really working to clients, but just an internal sort of whatever needs to happen. So
interesting.
I think 4.5 days, like even a half day.
Yes.
Would be amazing.
Huge.
And much easier to find half a day.
Yes, absolutely. And I know we've put in half day bonuses of if you reach monthly targets as a team, the whole team gets a half day, so there's stuff around that you can absolutely be doing. And, time for plenty of other. I know we've got an incentives topic coming up in the future as to how to incentivize our team, and that's something accountants have struggled with as well. So lots to be thinking about, and we'd be keen to get an update on that 4.5 day week, Kyelie. That'd be interesting. But what's happening here with our chats? Well, both Kyelie and I are off to a big expo next week down in Sydney, so we get to hop on a plane. First time on a plane for me in a long time, which is amazing. So Kyelie and I are off to the Accounting Business Expo in Sydney next week. So we won't be around for our Wednesday chat, but we will be back the following week, of course. And of course, all of our chats are via available via replays in Clubhouse and also out on my YouTube channel and various other channels. So you can get them almost anywhere. We've made it pretty easy for you. But the following week on the 4th of May, oh my gosh, we can't believe we're saying May already. But it's a cracker of a topic, looking towards tomorrow and developing a business outlook. So there's heaps to come into that. Even some of that we were talking about today fits perfectly into there. So thank you once again, Kyelie. A great chat this morning. I've loved chatting about this. It's been good fun. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Lynda. Awesome as always. I will see you in a fortnight.
You sure will. And have a great week, everybody. See you soon. Bye now.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.